Hello, my name is Mitch. I draw the comic book Blood Force, and I talk about comics on my YouTube channel, which is also called Blood Force. And normally I talk about older comics from the 90s, but today we're kind of switching tracks. And we're going to be talking about some newer comics from a brand new publisher. So today I'm joined by three esteemed comic men. So I've got Rory Boyle and Scott Wakefield of the comic book Steam Patriots, as well as Dan Hosek of the comic File 13. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good. Thanks, Mitch.
Excellent. Wonderful.
All right. Good stuff. So I thought we'd kind of ease into things a little bit. We can start with how long you guys have been in the comics business, if you like.
Well, how about Rory and I go first because it's been just like this much time.
2 minutes.
Okay,
So,
that sounds good.
Rory and I, we don't have a huge resume to our name. We've been working on our book for like 40, 50 years, it feels like. And then finally getting our story out there. So we've only been, 2 honest years in the business.
2 honest years, yeah. I mean, if you really want to broaden it out and be liberal with it, we started it in 2009, 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's
we
sitting around making up stories.
Yeah, we specifically said this isn't going to be a project that takes us 10 years to make.
And here we are.
So you jinxed it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then maybe a little bit longer than a couple of years. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a small period, and then there's a huge gap, and then there's the new period. So I was in the mid-90s.
Okay.
I was an assistant editor at Marvel Comics for about 2 years. It was a weird time to be at Marvel because they were in the middle of their massive bankruptcy. It was like right after the big boom when everyone was making mountains of money. I got to be part of Marvel when they were like $800 million in debt. So it was in hindsight, if I realized that like all like corporate America is kind of the same and most corporate jobs aren't cool, I probably would have stuck it out a lot longer because the group of guys I worked with were a pretty phenomenal group of guys who I'm still friends with, a lot of them. So it was, in hindsight, it was pretty awesome.
All right.
And then there's like a gap of, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years where I'm kind of still in publishing. I was doing children's educational books and children's books for Dutton. And then I started, me and my buddy Keith Koppenhofer, who's the co-creator of File 13 with me. We were just at our jobs and just kind of would text back and forth when we didn't have a lot of stuff to do on Yahoo Messenger, just to date it a little bit. And then we just started to come up with the ideas for File 13. And we said, why don't we try and do it? And then I guess it was 2015 or 16. We finally got it going. We found an artist, Ryan Gutierrez, awesome artist. And he was kind of in the same area as us downstate when I was in that area. Well, I was up here by then, but he was still downstate. And and then it just happened there. We've done 3 issues. Then there's been a hiatus, but now we're going to try and bring it back again with Promethean. So.
All right, good stuff. Well, why don't I segue it then into what we're kind of here for. What is Promethean Entertainment? Who wants to field that one?
Ooh. Well, that's good.
Ooh, we didn't. Ooh.
So we were just texting our crew here a couple days ago. We said we need a tagline, and we don't have that yet. So, what do we say on it? We got something on Instagram that I think works. So, something about stories of adventure. I'm really selling it here, aren't I?
No, man, it's exciting. It's adventurous.
I've never heard that.
Well, we're an independent publisher. Nothing is out yet, so this is all stuff that's coming. We have a great stable of stories that some of it, like Steam Patriots, we worked a little to expand our world for a new launch. Dan's File 13, same thing. He's kind of retooling some of his stories, but then we've got we want to cover the genres, but not be an everything publisher. We want to have a good stable of quality stories that have a staying power, a life to them. Each story will have a great world, great characters, great depth, and those are the stories we want to live in. We want them, like I said, we don't want it to be scattershot or everything. We want a great, solid handful of stories.
Yeah, like when we were coming up with the name, we went through.
Took us months
together. We were reading online, like, take the vowels out of words. And then as you find something really cool, you find that it's already been taken. Like inevitably everything has been used in one form or another because that's how it is. But Promethean, the Oxford English Dictionary, defines it as doing things in an individual and original way and showing no respect for authority and rules. I don't know if that's
okay.
I was gonna say
there you go.
Say that.
We are trying.
When's the album dropping? Yeah,
in a new and original way. I mean, we're trying to put out good content, but we also kind of want to try and keep the collectability of comics. I know with print on demand, which is like a lot of what we're going to. Our distribution model is going to be probably through Kickstarter or some crowdfunding platform because I think that's pretty much the route of most independent publishers. But what we want to do to try and keep a collectability to it, because if it's print on demand, it's always available. So it kind of ruins that. We're going to try and limit our print runs to no more than either 500 copies, or if we're lucky to have like 2,000 backers, we'll go like 10% above our initial backer numbers of books. So there'll always be a limited number of books available so that it kind of keeps that collectability aspect of comics, which I think is a pretty big part of most people that buy comics collect comics.
Yeah, and we want to be
true enough.
Consistent. One of the struggles of indie producers, creators, is most people have to have their day job, and you're working with usually an artist that's also not his day job or her day job, and so the thing I said about sticking to our stable, a good solid handful, is we want to have our stories be consistent for the readers, and quality. And I know that sounds silly, but we really, I mean, people say it.
Everybody strives for it,
yeah. But we really want well drawn, quality storylines. We want depth of character. We want our plots and our story worlds well thought out, so that we can have interesting stories and intricate plots, while being fun. We're not. It's not going to be Iliad and the Odyssey, but we want.
Despite the name of that company.
Well, we want depth and we want quality.
Quality. You're prioritizing the quality,
Yeah, we are on a schedule, really, because that was, I think, one of the shortfallings of File 13 was it wasn't on a consistent schedule. So our goal really, it's aggressive and might not be easy to keep, but we want to put one of these books out every 3 months. We want to have them be quarterly, at least initially. And then if we're lucky enough that, we get the ball rolling and it snowballs and we're making money and we can actually produce more often, then we'll go more often. But the goal is quarterly books.
Well, that's a big thing too, right? Is being able to count on a book being able to come out on a regular schedule.
Yeah.
It's for a reader. All right. So why don't we move on to the books themselves? You guys want to talk a bit about what the books are about in these cases? So I don't know if Scott and Rory, if you want to talk about
sure.
Steam Patriots there.
You want to go, Rory? I talk a lot.
Yeah, I'll roll with it. Right, so our whole Steam Patriots idea came to us on a boating trip Scott and I took with a few friends. He was getting stationed in Ketchikan, Alaska, and him and his family were going to live on a boat, so we took it up there ahead of him. And over the course of 6 days, from inside the Inside Passage, we just hatched this idea. I don't know if lightning must have just struck us both at the same time, because we don't know who came up with the idea. We just looked at each other like, steampunk American Revolution. How has this not been done before?
Right.
This is perfect. And we just kept thinking about it and said, yeah, because steampunk's so Victorian England, and we want to make it American and give it that origin. And then Ben Franklin was already there. We're like, who better to put it in there to shoehorn, making it American and invention side of it. And then we wanted to stay true to history and the people and the events, but we also wanted that different twist to it. We needed our own protagonist, which insert Felix, this young boy with an amazing mind, photographic memory, And so we're going to take the story from
Steam Boy's taken.
Right.
Is it?
Darn. Boy of Steam.
There's a movie, Steam Boy, right?
I don't know about
Yeah.
Steam Boy.
Yeah.
You don't know?
Well, all you got to do is tweak it a little bit. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And Dan with sorry, if you want to continue.
No, Roy's got it. We
Okay.
I've said too. We want a great story. Of course, there's the suspension of disbelief for the fantastic machines, but in the real history, there was steam technology well before the American Revolution. So we're just kind of taking all those little bits of things that were there. Plus, we really wanted to search out pieces of history where either something's not recorded or it's hazy. You know, so and so wasn't there, or
what could be the solution in that case? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we also didn't want it to. We don't want it to be like, you know, Magic School Bus where he's flying around the country and showing up at everywhere. Also, the Forrest Gump where he's there.
That was the next thing I thought. Yeah.
So quality characters, and like Rory said, we don't want to detract from what real people did. So that's why we look for those things where maybe they're not really well documented, and we can take advantage of those bits of history. And we want it to be big and lots of steam and smoke and explosions and action, but also cool characters.
That sounds great. Right, and Dan, with your comic with File 13, I read a little bit about it, and it seems kind of like your childhood character there.
Yeah, it was. It was actually, it was comics I was doing when I was like 12 years old. So I was like drawing and writing everything. So it kind of has like the fever dream quality that a 12-year-old would probably bring to the table when they're doing that sort of stuff. But like the characters were they were absurd. Like there was like a dog man that the guy, well, the armor he has is based on a garbage can. So like when I was a kid, he was called Can Man, but there was like an interesting thing where there was an energy drink that had a comic going called Can Man at the time when I was trying to get a trademark for my name of all things. So I was like, what's going on? And then there was like Dark Dog energy drink too, which was like weird because like the main villain.
See, the name's the hardest part.
Like a dog character. So it was really bizarre. So we went with File 13 and we changed it. And we had like, but it would, to go back, it is, yes, a childhood thing that I did about 4 issues of when I was a kid. And me and my friend Keith Koppenhofer, we were talking again. And we just kind of started building on this world and coming up with ideas and like stories for it. And we just by texting, I kept the log. So I kept looking back at them. And we just kind of came up with the first issue. Keith pretty much wrote the first issue mostly himself. I mean, the ideas were together. And then from there we found Ryan Gutierrez, who has been great. He's an awesome guy too. So he just kind of fit right in with us and had the same sensibility, same sense of humor. So it's just pretty much like it's a typical, not typical, but like a classical hero's journey. But it's just really got an absurdist tone to it because the characters are ridiculous. Like so they, you know, there's like it's kind of like a Venture Brothers or something where it's like the stories can be very grounded and rooted, but the characters that are in this world are ridiculous, and the characters that are living this are absurd. And so that's
having a character whose look is a trash can kind of gives you a license to do that, right?
And I think we came up with a
go wherever from there.
Yeah, a clever way for why he's a trash can, you know, in the first issue and stuff, where he's like trying to build a regenerative metal, and then like he's running out of time to apply it to something, and the only thing he sees that he could apply it to once like the formula finally worked for him was the trash can over in the side of the room. So that, and then that becomes the basis for this suit of armor this Iron Man like suit of armor he's building. So Keith was really good. I think he's a phenomenal dialogue writer. I love his interactions and just like the repartee he has between characters. And I'm really into like pseudoscience and that sort of nonsense. So I come up with a lot of good like gobbledygook and nonsense. And I was using quantum before they were using it in the MCU. So
of course.
So I feel bad because I'm looking at the book now. I'm like, everyone's going to think I'm copying off the MCU, and I'm not. I did it first. The quantum.
That's how it goes. Yeah. All right, and so you guys are all writers for your comics. Is there a specific kind of story that appeals to you, would you say, for your books?
Adventure.
So I don't know.
Personally.
I'll catch
Yeah.
my breath.
Yeah, adventure all the way.
All right.
Yeah,
So like Indiana Jones kind of thing, or
Yep.
with,
Yeah, precisely.
Yep.
Yep.
yeah, I do enjoy. I like the James Bond, Indiana Jones, action hero kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and I always enjoy the deck stacked against the hero, the insurmountable odds
right.
kind of story.
Something's always going wrong, or if it can go wrong, it will go wrong.
Just more problems to solve.
Right. And then you put it in a setting. I love sci-fi and I love fantasy. There are eras like Indiana Jones. I mean, I love that. I'm talking the real Indiana Jones, not those movies they made.
Yeah, then the ones from the last couple of decades, they don't count so much.
Nope, the first three, and that's it. But just those styles, the heroes, the setting, and the high adventure books too. Like I love sea stories, the Horatio Hornblower book series, and that mini series from the late '90s, early 2000s with Mr. Fantastic in it. What's that actor's name? Ian Rufu.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know I'd have to know pop culture stuff.
Yeah.
And Dan, for your
Me,
stories.
if I'm going to go like comic book wise, like I would say John Byrne was kind of my idol growing up, like as far as like what I wanted like my art to look like, and what I think he told great stories, and I think he did it in such a way, just like it's kind of formulaic, but like, he'd have his main plot, and then he'd have his subplot A, which would take up a couple pages, and subplot B, which would be slowly building towards something, and then like subplot becomes the main story, subplot B becomes the subplot A, and like it was just really well structured, and I just really liked the way those stories moved and flowed. And I mean, his run on Fantastic Four, I think in the 80s, is probably one of the best runs on comics ever.
Yeah.
And I just, I read X-Men into the 90s. Claremont was great. If is a little verbose, I think, but his stories
just
were
a bit, maybe.
Just a little, but still great stories. So like if I'm looking at some sort of like, that's what we're trying to capture with File 13, is that sort of vibe, like an 80s or 90s sort of vibe. And I think like more compressed storytelling, like I know the trend nowadays is to go the other way and just kind of like stretch your story. And you can do that at like a Marvel or DC where you have a monthly title. But I think with us, with our serialized 4 times a year, I think compressed storytelling helps because we can get more story across, and we're packing more into, if they're only coming out every 3 months, we'll have more happening in those books.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Absolutely. All right. And what is your usual process for writing or for making a comic? Who wants to start?
Well, I can start with my process first. It's
Sure.
probably shorter. I like to take the beginning, and I know where I want to start. I know the scene, the setting, the environment, what's happening right now, and then I know how I want it to end.
Right.
So I have to figure out all the big moments in between, string them together, and then I don't want to say use filler to get it there, but you got to get how do you move it from one scene to the next logically?
Right.
When in doubt, just montage.
That usually, that's a good kind of Gordian knot kind of thing.
If you can't figure out the ending, it was all a dream.
That's right.
There you go.
And everyone woke up.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm same way. I get the high points of the story, and I get an end. That's one of the things that I'm not a sage of writing, and I don't have a body of work to show people. But if you can get the end, at least for me, then you have something to work toward. I'm a mix of plotting and planning, and then seat of the pants, because I like to have the milestones to keep me on track, but I do like seat of the pants to allow the characters and the story to take over, and I feel that gives them allows for a richness of the character, and it allows for that inspiration But I do also now I think one of the worst phrases in academia or learning is group project. I think that's it's one of the worst things ever. But in the writing process, I do enjoy a collaborative process because Rory will come up with a story idea, and I'll have a story idea. You know, we're working on the same. You know, what's Felix going to do here? It's the year 1770, whatever. Rory's got an idea. I got an idea. I say mine out loud. Rory says his out loud, and we both get some sort of inspiration by collaborating, by either saying it out loud, right? Then Dan's been a great editor. He's helped edit both so far in the third. You know, we're kind of reworking. Great editor, you know, he'll say, well, what if so and so just did this, or you know, this would solve that problem, or then things like when we get down to the fine details, when Dan's done the lettering, so why don't we give this line of dialogue to this person, or if we
mostly because of how it fits.
Well, a lot of times, yeah. So let's put it over.
Trade secrets now.
It's good to know. No, absolutely.
But stuff's too also like pacing. You know, Dan said, well, let's chop this off, put it on the next page, kind of stuff. That's the fine tuning that I really like. But I like the collaborative process because hashing out a plot from big down to the details collaboratively, you really get some cool stuff.
I know some people like to work in a vacuum, but I'm on the same page as Scott. I'm a big believer in synergy, that like, you know, the sum is greater than the parts, and that usually multiple people can really come up with something, unless you're like an Alan Moore or somebody who just has a vision and has a story he's trying to tell, and it's his vision and he doesn't need anyone else coming in to mess with it. But me, like, you know, like with Keith and I working on File 13, it's just the two ideas just become a much better idea once all the brains come together and work on it.
I do have a hard time. It gets easier telling them, no, that's stupid and you're stupid. But we've gotten to where my ideas are the best and they just nod.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's synergy, right?
Synergy, right?
Yeah, that's what you call that.
The hardest part is when we get together to write, it's 90% just making each other laugh.
Yeah,
and
saying
10% actual work.
Right.
Coming up with the absurdist idea. And
well, whatever works to get it on the page, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And like with File 13, I'm sure you know the difference between like the Marvel method and the full script method, where you know the Marvel method is you just kind of lay out the pages, but you don't have any dialogue or anything written.
Right.
Whereas full script, everything is like spelled out point by point, more like a movie script. So we pretty much used the Marvel method and then once I started to really get a feel for Ryan and how much I could trust him, like I was getting even more loose and just be like, okay, so I can really just kind of feed Ryan kind of what I want to have happen over the next 3 pages, and he's going to come up with something really good for it. So it's, you know, that was nice. The first issue, I did thumbnails for the whole book, because initially I thought I was going to try and draw it, but that I realized that, I mean, that's why, you know, you doing your whole book all by yourself is like, it's such a phenomenal feat, and it's like a pretty remarkable achievement. So you should pat yourself on the back a lot every time you
all right, I will
feel a little down about anything. Just be like, well, I'm doing a whole comic all by myself, so that's pretty awesome, because I could never get to the board. And then the other thing I could never do is like, I'm okay at drawing like still figures, and I'm okay at laying out a page, but I can never get them to mesh and make something nice. So, so like I sketched out the whole book, and Ryan, you know, he would follow my thumbnails pretty well. And then sometimes he would just go off on his own and lay out a page better and do something much more interesting than I had planned. And I find that like there was like a lot of dialogue and stuff that came about just because of the way he drew or laid out a page. And there were characters that he drew and made so distinct that I was like, oh, I want to use this person later. I'm going to have that person show up in other issues. That's going to become this character's daughter. And so like I found like the story world evolving and changing just because of what he was doing and how he was drawing and just bringing stuff to the page, which I found was really cool. Just another example of that synergy.
That's interesting, because I've always kind of wondered about how effective the Marvel method really would be, because it's, I don't know, it seems like it's leaving an awful lot to the artist. I think as an artist, it feels kind of daunting maybe, except it sounds like it really does kind of inspire the writer.
Yeah, yeah, I think like if you're working with an artist that you trust and that you work well with and you have like a rapport with, then I think it works really well because it's worked out. I can't think of any. Like I know sometimes like you'll get something back, you're like, oh, that's not at all what I was looking for. But with Ryan, I never really got that. There were a couple things that were different, but I was like, that's cool, that's better. I like that more. So it's like I've been super lucky in that I've never had an instance where I was like, oh no, he has to redraw this whole page because it's totally wrong. Like he just gets it. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. I'm kind of out of questions, to be honest. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about today?
Well, actually, yeah, Scott, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was
gonna say our fourth member has forwarded some questions. And
all right.
While we do this, we're gonna take over the logo there.
There you go.
Hey. Okay. So, what are your feelings on over-stylized artists such as Sam Keith or Jay Lee?
I look at the stuff and it's like it was produced by an alien. I've seen no understanding of how they arrived at that solution a lot of the time. I mean, these days with Jay Lee, his styles change so much that it's at a point where I can at least understand it. His early stuff is just bonkers. And Sam Keith, same kind of thing where I don't understand where his brain kind of decides, okay, no, we definitely need like a feather here and like a real feather stapled to the page or whatever.
Whoa!
I think he did that once or twice. Like he'll throw all sorts of crazy stuff on the page, and I can't make that leap. Where I need this obscure material. It's amazing looking stuff a lot of the time, but it's not the kind of thing I can relate to.
Yeah, it's almost like expressionistic, it's where it's not even really like sequential sometimes, but like it's just it's like it's like that fever dream sort of quality where it's just like
there's a lot of Sam Keith stuff like
getting
that.
It out. Yeah,
no, for sure.
Excellent. All right, what gimmicks or artistic shortcuts bother you the most? For example, Leafield holding feet behind rocks or smoke.
I don't know if that one bothers me that much, man. Feet are hard to draw. I don't know. I mean, I do it a lot myself on my comic, but and in that case, it's usually a parody thing where I'm specifically targeting. Apparently, Jim Lee did that a lot too. But the ones that bother me the most with stylistic quirks, I don't think I have too much of a problem with it because a lot of the time stylistic quirks are their sort of templates, and it is a shortcut, but it's to help you. Okay, I know how to get through this part of the page because this part over here is going to be difficult to work out. At least I know I've got this part locked down. That's usually okay for me. It's when people start going into autopilot on, I think, page layouts or something that kind of gets to me a bit. It's like, man, if you thought about this a little more, you could have made this more interesting, but you just kind of flat angle and just show us everything. That's fine for clarity.
Too repetitive.
Exactly me. Yeah, I didn't try to make it interesting. It's like, well, it's a visual medium. You got to do what you can.
Right.
Yeah.
Moving on the page is important.
That how to do comics the Marvel way, I think, nails most of that stuff really well. There's that whole section where Buscema's drawing like just a static guy bursting through the wall, but then he does like an upshot of the same thing, and it's just like it's just so much more dramatic and so much more powerful to just tweak that camera angle a little. And I think even a lot of modern comics today, they're like talent wise, I think the artists might be like through the roof, like with what they can draw and what they can portray, but like some of that energy in life is missing from the art. And that's really what I like about Ryan's work a lot, is that the characters kind of move across the page. They have a life and an energy, and that's what drew me to his work most the first time I saw it.
Yeah, no, I could see that. Yeah, it's great looking stuff.
Thank you.
I didn't want to forget too. So we should be making some noise here in the next month or so about what we've got going on with Promethean. But our big launch is really going to be the beginning of the year, and hopefully, now I'm not making promises, but our plan is to launch with our title called Souls for Sale, and that's our the other guy, Eric, who we say is just great on screen and a very charismatic fellow, but he he insists on.
Magnetic personality. That's why we couldn't have him. He'd steal the show.
I think
exactly.
He'd be great, but, it's his title. It's a World War I alternate history. Got a cool like action hero lead female. Who I think Eric's kind of confused us all with where the plot's going for some of the leads. So we don't know everything.
Who's gonna live? Who's gonna die?
The king is way older than he should be, kept alive with means we can't reveal.
Right.
There's great art. Rodo has been doing the art. He goes by Rodo.
Amazing.
No, it is incredible looking.
Awesome. Yeah. Talk about energy. I mean, his angles, his move, everything's moving and going.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to Souls for Sale. If people would check out our website, and we know it's long, PrometheanEntertainment.com. But our titles are up there. And when will this be airing?
Are we asking me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I might put it up shortly after I get it back from being edited, I would think. I can do it a little later if that works for you.
Oh, no. Well, because we October 21st, we're going to have some big news, too, about another title. So
okay.
I don't want to pop on for 5 minutes and let you know what that is.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So, yeah, we got big things, and yeah, I'll stop talking.
All right. Okay. So I mean, if I think we're probably good here then, so we can probably wrap things up. So that was once again PrometheanEntertainment.com, and we've got Scott, Rory, and Dan for File 13 and Steam Patriots, and then also check out Souls for Sale, and those are all coming out soon. All right. So.
Thank you
guys
for
being here today.
Yeah.
I don't know how to wrap one of these things up. I've never done this part.
We all woke up.
They all woke up.
There we go.
Thanks, man.
All right.
All right,
Thanks
Tom.
again,
Thank
guys.
you. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.